To put a spotlight on any Thomas character and just talk briefly about what makes them so memorable or significant. Their overall story, their character traits, important episodes in the series that they take the leads of. I already covered my two favorite characters. One, I was left kind of wondering where to go with this next. From what angle do I approach the next one? Since I didn't have a solid idea, I left Sodor's Finest alone for a little while, until I felt inspired to make another one. Now that I've had some time to mull over the concept, and produce 3 big videos explaining the 3 prominent timelines of the series, I decided why not take advantage of those, and have those timelines lay as the groundwork for Sodor's Finest moving forward. From this installment onwards, we'll be taking deep dives into character journeys across all 3 timelines, and then compare and contrast them all at the end. Sounds fun, right? I already covered Edward and Gordon, so I don't really want to talk about them again anytime soon. And Thomas, oh god, that is too big a beast to take on right now. So we'll do the next best in line. Henry, the Green Engine. Who is Henry? Henry is a big green tender engine. He was the 3rd engine on the Northwestern Railway. He is one of the biggest engines on the railway, almost as big as Gordon. He can usually be seen hauling heavy goods trains across the island of Sodor to the mainland, including a special named fish train called the Flying Kipper. But he also pulls passengers. Sometimes, even the express. Henry is stuffy, grumpy, and often quite rude. But when he's alone, he really likes nature. He also screams a lot. I think Henry's the perfect candidate to kick off the new format for Sodor's Finest, because unlike others we've already covered, Henry's history and character is very complex. So complex that only a thorough analyzation of it can get to the bottom of what he's really all about. You'll see what I mean as we dive in. Let's start with Henry's origins.
Black Friday starts now at Dick's. Score up to 30% off Nike, up to 40% off hoodies and sweatshirts from Adidas, Carhartt, and more. Plus, up to 50% off table tennis tables and up to 50% off Stanley. If you find a lower price, we'll match it. Don't miss Black Friday deals at Dick's.
Let's get to work on a life you love.
Henry's backstory is one of the most complex and unfortunate of all the characters. To understand his origin, you have to understand the context of the illustrations in the first 4 books of the Railway series. When series creator Wilbert Awdry came up with the stories for the first of his books, The 3 Railway Engines, he had 3 very different engines in mind. An older 440 called Edward, a relic of the past, a big strong modern 462 Pacific called Gordon, the most modern and high-class railway traction at the time, and a 442 Atlantic called Henry, a more contemporary engine of the times. 3 very different wheel arrangements, Henry clearly being the middle-sized of the 3. Awdry's reference drawings clearly depict Henry as an Atlantic with the 442 wheel arrangement. However, the first illustrator, William Middleton, did not translate the illustrations precisely as Awdry wanted, and depicted Henry as a 462 similar to Gordon in the final publication. Awdry was severely disappointed with the end results, not getting the Henry he had asked for. He was so upset with the drawings that the publishers, Edmund Ward, did not ask Middleton to return for the next book. The second book, Thomas the Tank Engine, was handed to illustrator Reginald Payne, who approached the style very differently and delivered a fresh, realer take on the characters. The characters started to resemble real-life engines. Gordon officially became a Doncaster A1, and Thomas closely resembled a Brighton E2. Henry, however, again got the short end of the stick. Payne also did not illustrate Henry as the Atlantic that Awdry initially wanted. Instead, he drew him virtually identical to Gordon, rectangle buffers and all. Henry's only defining feature was, interestingly, a copper chimney cap, akin to those on Great Western engines. 2 books in and 2 different illustrators, and both times Henry was drawn incorrectly. Side note, but I find it so interesting that the general shapes of the first 5 characters that we know today were totally at the hands of Payne. Dalby gets a lot of lash for being inconsistent, but it was really Payne who mucked up the groundwork. Old Shape Henry would simply not be a thing if it weren't for Payne's mistakes here. Think about that. Despite this, Audrey was generally content with Payne's work and allowed his proposed shapes of the engines to continue. However, confusion only persisted when Payne suffered mental health issues and was unable to return for the third book. The third illustrator, Clarence Dalby, was brought on, and he illustrated the third book, James the Red Engine, onwards. Some of Payne's traits were carried over, particularly noticeable on Henry, who maintained the rectangle buffers and copper chimney. Funnily enough, Dalby went back and re-illustrated the first two books in 1949 to be consistent in his style, removing those features from Henry, hilariously leaving this one blip of Henry with a copper cap and rectangle buffers in a single illustration in Tank Engine Thomas again. Considering how anal Audrey was with consistency, I find it shocking he never had Dalby go back and fix this for later editions. In his re-illustrations of the three railway engines, however, Dalby incorrectly illustrated Henry as a 460. We're 3 for 3 now. Henry just couldn't catch a break, and these inconsistencies really bothered Audrey. Audrey admitted as much that he hated Henry. He hated that the illustrators couldn't get him right, and he wanted to write a story where Henry becomes ill and gets sent off from the railway, never to return. This is why Henry is written as ill in Thomas the Tank Engine and Tank Engine Thomas again, FYI. It was Audrey cleverly laying the groundwork for Henry's eventual leave. However, kids frequently wrote in and asked Audrey to see more of Henry. Audrey later changed